They see you moving in silence and mistake it for stillness, not understanding that the most dangerous predators make no sound before they strike. They watch you observe from the periphery and assume you are passive, blind to the reality that you are mapping the entire battlefield from a position of untouchable advantage. They think your lack of craving for the spotlight is a weakness, failing to grasp that true power operates in the shadows, not under the blinding glare of public approval. This isn't a game of seeking attention. It's a war of strategic invisibility, and you were born to win it. Welcome to the Sigma Male community, the one place that doesn't just acknowledge your path but actively forges the weapons you'll need to master it. Here we don't chase power, we embody it, we cultivate it, and we deploy it with the chilling precision of a grandmaster. Today we dissect how the Sigma Male doesn't just read the 48 laws of power, he lives a code so advanced it makes those laws look like a beginner's manual. This is about transforming stoic principles into tactical dominance, moving through the world not as a piece on the board, but as the unseen hand that guides the game. 1. Master fluid identity, become human water. The world desperately wants to put you in a box, to slap a label on you so it can predict, categorize, and ultimately control you. They want you to be the executive, the artist, the lone wolf, a fixed point on their map. The Sigma Male instinctively rejects this. He understands that a defined identity is a cage, a set of expectations that can be weaponized against him. Instead, he embodies the ultimate form of strategic adaptability. He becomes like water. In one context, he is the silent observer in the back of the room, gathering intelligence while others posture and preen. In another, he is the decisive leader, stepping forward with unshakable resolve when chaos paralyzes everyone else. By dusk, he might be the invisible strategist working on his own terms, completely detached from the roles he played just hours before. This constant state of flux is not an identity crisis. It is a calculated evolutionary advantage that keeps him perpetually underestimated and eternally free. This mastery of fluid identity is a profound application of Stoic self-control, where the inner self, the core principles, the unshakable will remains constant, while the external persona is a tool to be adapted as needed. The Sigma doesn't tie his ego to a job title, a social status, or the opinions of others. This detachment grants him unparalleled psychological armor. While others crumble when their carefully constructed identity is threatened, the Sigma simply sheds his skin and adopts a new one, better suited for the current terrain. He can pivot his entire career path without a moment's hesitation, sever ties with relationships that no longer serve his growth, and acquire new skills not for a resume, but to become a more adaptable and formidable force. This isn't about being fake, it's about understanding that the world is a stage, and he is both the actor and the director, choosing his roles with deliberate intent. The deeper play here is recognizing that in a world obsessed with data and predictability, being formless is the ultimate form of power. Competitors, rivals, and even supposed allies expend immense energy trying to analyze and define him, but they are chasing a ghost. They are attempting to build a profile of a man who has already evolved into something new. The Sigma Male exploits this gap between their perception and his reality, adapting to chaotic situations and emerging with a solution while others are still trying to understand the problem. He outmaneuvers opponents not through brute force, but by being strategically incomprehensible. Their attempts to box him and become their own undoing, as they base their strategies on an outdated version of him that no longer exists. Ultimately, this fluidity is about controlling the narrative of his own life. By refusing to be defined by any external label, he denies others the power to write his story. He is the sole author of his own existence, his actions guided by an internal compass, not by the expectations of the crowd. This allows him to navigate the complexities of social hierarchies and power dynamics with an almost supernatural ease. He can integrate and disintegrate, lead and follow, speak and be silent, all on his own terms. The result is a man who controls the entire battlefield of life, not by occupying a fixed position of power, but by being a pervasive, unstoppable force that can never be pinned down, predicted, or contained. 2. Weaponize scarcity, disappear to amplify power. In a world screaming for attention, where lesser men plaster their every thought and meal across social media, the Sigma Male understands a fundamental law of value: that which is always available is never truly cherished. While others are desperately chasing likes, followers, and validation, the Sigma cultivates his power by mastering the art of absence. he strategically vanishes. This isn't the retreat of an antisocial recluse. It's a calculated maneuver to manufacture scarcity. He will consciously skip the meaningless social gatherings, the trivial networking events, and the endless digital chatter. He mutes the noise not out of apathy but to create a vacuum. His deliberate absence becomes a gravitational force, pulling on the curiosity and imagination of others, making his eventual reappearance an event of significance. The strategic calculus behind this is simple yet profound. Overexposure breeds contempt, but scarcity breeds value and respect. The man who is always there, always available, always explaining himself, is subconsciously demoted. His presence becomes mundane, his opinions background noise. The Sigma, by rationing his presence, transforms himself from accessible to elusive. In a negotiation, this manufactured scarcity can be a devastating weapon. His silence, his delayed responses, create an unnerving void that the other party feels compelled to fill, often with concessions and unnecessary information. In relationships, this same principle ignites authentic desire, replacing neediness with intrigue. He understands the rhythm of presence and absence, appearing only when his input is most potent, ensuring that every word he speaks and every action he takes is weighted with unspoken authority. This practice is a direct reflection of a Stoic mindset, focusing on what is essential and discarding the superfluous. The Sigma doesn't seek external validation, so he feels no compulsion to constantly perform for an audience. His worth is derived from his own internal standards of excellence, not from the applause of the crowd. This allows him to retreat into periods of intense, purposeful solitude. During these times he is not idle. He is sharpening his skills, deepening his knowledge and building his resources. He is working on himself in the dark so that when he steps back into the light, he is a more formidable, more valuable version of himself. His silence isn't empty, it's filled with productive action that others will only see the results of much later. By mastering the art of disappearing, the Sigma seizes control of how he is perceived. He becomes a mythic figure in his own circles, his power amplified by rumor and speculation. His unanswered messages breed intrigue. His quiet weeks build a legend. When he finally does choose to engage, he commands the undivided attention of the room, because his presence has become a rare and valuable commodity. He doesn't need to shout to be heard. His carefully timed appearance speaks volumes. This isn't about playing games. It's about understanding human psychology at its deepest level and using it to preserve his energy, protect his focus, and ensure that when he does act, his impact is decisive and absolute. 3. Speak with surgical precision. Silence as artillery. The modern world is drowning in a sea of meaningless words. People chatter endlessly, revealing their insecurities, broadcasting their weaknesses, and handing ammunition to their rivals with every thoughtless sentence. The Sigma male sees words not as a tool for casual communication, but as ammunition to be conserved and deployed with lethal precision. He treats his speech like a sniper's rifle. Every round is rare, carefully calibrated, and aimed at a specific target. He dissects conversations with a cool, analytical restraint, offering no rambling monologues, no emotional leakage, and no unnecessary justifications for his actions. When he breaks his silence, the brevity of his statements often freezes the room, his few words carrying the weight of a manifesto because they are backed by deep thought and unshakable conviction. This economy of language terrifies the unprepared and exposes the manipulative. The Sigma understands a core tenet of power. Oversharing is a form of voluntary enslavement. Every extraneous word you utter is a piece of your strategy you give away for free. It's a hook for others to grab onto, a thread they can pull to unravel your intentions. By weaponizing silence, the Sigma starves gossip of the oxygen it needs to survive. He derails manipulative questioning by refusing to provide the emotional reactions his interrogators crave. In boardrooms, negotiations, or even casual social settings, he deploys silence as a form of psychological jujitsu, creating an uncomfortable void that others rush to fill, often revealing their own plans, fears, and motivations in their haste to break the tension. This isn't about being shy or inarticulate. It is the ultimate expression of rational self-control. It is the Stoic practice of mastering one's tongue, of understanding that an unguarded word can cause more damage than a physical blow. The Sigma listens more than he speaks, not because he has nothing to say but because he is constantly gathering data. He is analyzing the flow of conversation, identifying hidden agendas, and assessing the character of those around him. While others are busy broadcasting their egos, he is quietly building a complete psychological profile of everyone in the room. His silence is not passive, it is an active, aggressive form of intelligence gathering. When he finally chooses to speak, his words land with the force of an artillery shell because they are precise, intentional, and stripped of all emotional clutter. He doesn't argue, he states facts. He doesn't persuade with flowery language, he convinces with irrefutable logic. This surgical precision with language ensures that his words are remembered, his directives are followed, and his boundaries are respected. He has trained himself to communicate with maximum impact and minimum exposure, making him an incredibly difficult person to read, manipulate, or defeat in any verbal or psychological contest. His silence is his shield, and his words are his sword, both wielded with the deadly competence of a master. Control the clock, make time your ally. In a world that glorifies speed and instant gratification, most people are slaves to urgency. They react instantly, make decisions under pressure, and reveal their desperation through their haste. The Sigma male operates on a different temporal plane. He understands that true power lies not in being the fastest, but in controlling the tempo of the game itself. He makes time his most valuable ally, a weapon that he wields with patient, deliberate force. He will intentionally delay his response to a critical email, not out of procrastination, but to observe how the sender behaves under the strain of uncertainty. He will pause for days before signing a major deal, allowing the other side's eagerness to turn into anxiety, forcing them to sweeten the offer just to close the loop. He is the master of the strategic pause. This patient approach is not passivity, it is a calculated strategy to let his adversaries defeat themselves. The Sigma knows that impatience is a critical vulnerability. When others are rushing, they make mistakes. They overlook details, they concede on key points, and they reveal their hand. By refusing to be hurried, the Sigma forces everyone else to dance to his rhythm. He creates a tempo trap, where his deliberate pace unnerves and frustrates those who are accustomed to frantic action. A classic example is holding back a key piece of information or a project update until his competitors have already overcommit to their own flawed path. He then unveils his superior solution at the moment of maximum impact, making their frantic efforts look foolish and amateurish. This is the Stoic principle of rational action brought to life. The Sigma doesn't react to external pressures. He acts based on his own internal timetable, dictated by logic and strategic advantage, not by fear or greed. He has cultivated the mental fortitude to withstand the discomfort of waiting, to remain calm while others panic, and to see the long-term strategic picture when everyone else is focused on short-term gains. He understands that the person who can endure the silence, who can hold their position while the storm of urgency rages around them, is the one who will ultimately dictate the terms of any engagement. He plays the long game, willing to sacrifice minor, immediate opportunities to secure a decisive long-term victory. By owning the clock, the Sigma seizes control of the entire dynamic of a situation. He isn't just a player in the game, he is the composer of the symphony, dictating the pace and the rhythm. He knows when to accelerate, pouring on the pressure when he senses a moment of weakness or opportunity. He knows when to slow down to a grinding halt, forcing a stalemate that drains the emotional and mental resources of his opponents. This mastery of timing is like a superpower in a world addicted to immediacy. It allows him to exploit the impatience of others, to turn their desperation into his advantage, and to strike with decisive force only when the conditions are perfect for his victory. 5. Engineer chaos. Be the unpredictable variable. Human beings are creatures of habit. We crave patterns, predictability, and order because it gives us a sense of safety and control. The Sigma male understands this deep-seated psychological need and turns it into a weapon. While others build their lives around routines and predictable behaviors, the Sigma intentionally injects calculated randomness into his actions. He becomes the unpredictable variable in any equation, the ghost in the machine that defies analysis. He might arrive unexpectedly early for a meeting, not to be punctual, but to observe the unguarded moments before the official performance begins. He might abruptly exit a conversation mid-sentence, leaving the other person completely disoriented. He can shift from a supportive collaborator to a piercing challenger without any warning, keeping everyone around him on their toes. This is not impulsivity or a lack of discipline. It is a highly advanced strategy designed to ensure that no one can build an accurate model of his mind. You cannot trap a man whose patterns you cannot map. You cannot outmaneuver a man whose next move is logically untraceable. This calculated unpredictability serves as a powerful deterrent. Colleagues who might consider plotting against him will hesitate, because they have no reliable data on how he might react. Rivals will constantly second-guess their own strategies, forced to account for a wild card they can neither predict nor control. In a conflict, the Sigma can pivot his tactics 3 or 4 times before his opponent has even landed their first, predictable blow. This approach is rooted in a deep understanding of adaptability as a core tenet of survival and dominance. The Stoic seeks to be resilient in the face of external chaos. The Sigma takes this a step further by becoming the source of controlled chaos himself. He understands that predictability is a death warrant in any competitive environment. It allows others to anticipate you, to counter you, and to ultimately defeat you. By cultivating an aura of unpredictability, he paralyzes the analytical minds of his opponents. They become so focused on trying to figure him out that their own performance suffers. They are, in effect, fighting a ghost, swinging at a target that is no longer there. This engineered chaos is not about creating anarchy for its own sake. It is about maintaining a state of absolute strategic freedom. By refusing to be predictable, the Sigma prevents others from gaining leverage over him. He cannot be manipulated with standard emotional appeals, he cannot be cornered with conventional tactics, and he cannot be trapped by his own past behaviors. He is in a constant state of evolution, his actions dictated by the specific needs of the moment, not by a rigid set of pre-programmed responses. This forces the world to react to him, to adapt to his moves, placing him in a permanent position of psychological and strategic advantage. He doesn't just navigate chaos, he creates it, he controls it, and he thrives in it. To the Sigma watching this, you operate in the blind side. This isn't theory, it's your lived code. If you've ever been called hard to read, unpredictable, or an enigma, understand that these are not criticisms. They are acknowledgments of your power. You are already winning a game that others don't even know they are playing. The next law we are about to discuss isn't a tactic you learn, it's a fundamental part of your DNA. Master it consciously, and you will effectively vanish from the grid of your rivals while steering outcomes from the shadows with impunity. 6. Bury your blueprint, operate invisibly. The desire for validation is a profound human weakness. Most people feel an irresistible urge to broadcast their intentions, to share their grand plans, and to seek applause for their ambitions before they have even taken the first step. The Sigma male recognizes this as a fatal strategic error. He operates on a principle of absolute stealth, meticulously burying his blueprint from the prying eyes of the world. He understands Robert Greene's Law 3, conceal your intentions, not as a tool for petty manipulation, but as a vital survival mechanism. He executes his most significant moves under the cover of mundane, everyday actions. He might be casually discussing the quality of the office coffee while mentally structuring the framework of a corporate takeover. He will attend routine meetings with a placid expression, all while plotting an industry disruption that will make that very meeting obsolete. The advantage of this stealth-based approach is twofold. It insulates his mission from external interference and conserves his precious energy. Visibility paints a target on your back. The moment you announce a bold ambition, you invite the envy, sabotage, and unsolicited advice of those around you. The Sigma sidesteps this entirely. By keeping his true goals locked away in the vault of his mind, he gives his rivals nothing to attack. He avoids the energy-draining task of defending his vision to skeptics and naysayers. While others are busy seeking validation and fighting off detractors, the Sigma is in the shadows, quietly, methodically, and relentlessly executing his plan. He lets his results detonate in silence, creating an impact so sudden and decisive that there is no time for anyone to interfere. This method is the embodiment of Stoic action over empty words. The focus is entirely on the work, on the process, on the execution, not on the performance of ambition. The Sigma finds his satisfaction in the successful completion of his goals, not in the premature admiration of others. He moves with the quiet confidence of a man who doesn't need external cheerleaders because his own self-belief is absolute. He operates like a submarine, moving silently and unseen beneath the surface, only revealing his position after the torpedo has already hit its target. This makes his victories seem effortless, almost magical, to the outside observer, further enhancing his mystique and power. Ultimately, operating invisibly allows the Sigma to shape reality without ever having to engage in direct conflict. He doesn't need to fight for a seat at the table because he is busy building a new, better table in a different room. He outmaneuvers the competition not by confronting them head-on, but by making their positions irrelevant. His power is not in the noise he makes, but in the silent, irreversible changes he engineers while no one is watching. By the time the world notices what he has done, the game has already been changed, the new standard has been set, and he is already miles ahead, plotting his next move from the shadows. 7. Ritualize reinvention. Burn outdated versions of yourself. In a world that worships specialization and static identities, the Sigma male is a master of ritualistic reinvention. He understands that stagnation is the true enemy of power and growth. Clinging to a past success or a former identity is a form of self-imposed imprisonment. Therefore, he actively and ruthlessly torches the outdated versions of himself without ceremony or nostalgia. The man who was an expert in a particular field yesterday will become a humble apprentice in a completely new discipline today. He can walk away from a successful career, a comfortable city, or even a deeply held belief system the moment he recognizes it has become a limitation. This constant evolution is terrifying to those who have built their entire sense of self on a single fragile label. This is evolution as a conscious act of warfare against mediocrity. The Sigma knows that a stagnant identity rusts and becomes brittle, while a fluid one remains sharp and resilient. He recreates himself not to escape his past, but to stay unownable and uncategorizable. His past successes are not anchors weighing him down, they are launchpads for his next endeavor. His past failures are not sources of shame, they are invaluable data points in his ever-expanding library of experience. He acquires new skills, coding, a new language, the art of negotiation, not to pad a resume but to forge himself into a new weapon, to become a more adaptable and multifaceted human being. This reinvention is not a flight from reality, it is a strategic advance while others are busy guarding empty forts of past glory. This process requires a profound level of stoic detachment from the ego. The Sigma male must be willing to be a beginner again, to endure the discomfort of incompetence in a new field, and to let go of the status that came with his previous identity. This willingness to embrace the beginner's mind is what keeps him agile, creative, and dangerous. While others are protecting their fragile egos and their established reputations, the Sigma is in the trenches, learning, growing, and forging a new, more powerful version of himself. He understands that true confidence comes not from being the best at one thing, but from having the capacity to become excellent at anything he chooses. This ritual of reinvention is the ultimate long-term strategy. It ensures that he is always relevant, always adaptable, and always ahead of the curve. It makes him immune to the shocks of economic change, technological disruption, and shifting social landscapes. When one door closes, he is not left scrambling in the hallway. He has already built 10 new doors for himself. By consistently burning his old self, he rises from the ashes, not as a phoenix in a myth, but as a practical, more formidable man, ready to conquer the next chapter of his life on his own terms. His identity is not a monument to be preserved, it is a fire to be constantly fed. 8. Freeze reactions, ISIS strategy. Life is a constant barrage of provocations, insults, and emotional hooks designed to pull you out of your rational center. Most people react instinctively, their emotions flaring up like dry tinder, clouding their judgment and making them easy to manipulate. The Sigma male has trained himself to do the opposite. When provoked, he transmutes the raw, hot energy of anger or frustration into the cold, clear light of forensic analysis. He responds to a direct insult not with a retort, but with a chilling, analytical silence. He meets betrayal not with rage, but with a detached, surgical scrutiny of the betrayer's motives and methods. In his world, emotions are not drivers of action. They are simply data points to be observed, cataloged, and used. This approach, which can be called the Frost Doctrine, is a powerful strategic tool. Heat clouds judgment, creates chaos, and leads to costly mistakes. Ice, on the other hand, reveals leverage, clarifies the situation, and preserves your power. By refusing to take the emotional bait, the Sigma turns the provocations of others into valuable intelligence. A rival's public smear campaign is no longer a personal attack, It is a clear, public demonstration of their own insecurity and desperation, a piece of information to be archived and potentially used to dismantle them later. This glacial control has the added effect of completely exhausting his enemies, who are prepared for and often crave a fiery emotional response. When they are met with calm detachment, their entire strategy collapses, and the drama they hope to create is starved of the oxygen it needs to survive. This is the Stoic ideal of apatheia, the state of being undisturbed by passions, forged into a weapon. It is the result of rigorous internal training, of consciously choosing to observe one's own emotional responses from a distance rather than being consumed by them. The Sigma has built a fortress within his mind, a command center from which he can watch the storms of emotion rage without being swept away. This doesn't mean he doesn't feel anger, disappointment, or fear. It means he does not allow those feelings to dictate his actions. He acknowledges the feeling, analyzes its source, and then makes a calm, rational decision based on his long-term strategic objectives. This ability to freeze his reactions gives him an almost supernatural advantage in any high-stakes interaction. In a tense negotiation, his unreadable calm unnerves his opponents, making them question their own position. In a personal conflict, his refusal to escalate emotionally robs the aggressor of their power. People who rely on emotional manipulation to get their way find themselves completely disarmed by the Sigma's icy composure. They are playing checkers, trying to make simple emotional jumps, while he is playing a deep, psychological game of chess, his mind cool, his strategy clear, and his victory assured not through emotional outbursts, but through unshakable, rational control. 9. Forge inner citadels. Dependence is death. The modern world is a complex web of dependencies. People are dependent on their employers for a paycheck, on social groups for validation, and on fragile systems for their sense of security. The Sigma male views this web of reliance as the ultimate trap. He understands that every point of dependence is a potential point of leverage that can be used against him. Therefore, his primary lifelong project is the construction of an unbreachable inner citadel. This is not a fortress of brick and mortar, but a fortress of the mind, spirit, and practical skill. He systematically builds his self-sufficiency until it becomes a suit of impenetrable armor. Sovereignty for him is not a luxury, it is a non-negotiable condition of his existence. This process involves hoarding not wealth for its own sake, but resources that grant him freedom. He hoards knowledge, constantly learning new skills that make him more adaptable and less reliant on any single employer or industry. He hoards financial resources, not to live a life of lavish consumption, but to create a runway that allows him to walk away from any situation that compromises his integrity or autonomy. He hoards his own resolve, cultivating a mindset of radical self-reliance that allows him to thrive in solitude and to trust his own judgment above all others. He has no need to beg for a promotion, no crippling fear of being ostracized by a team, because his foundation is built on the bedrock of himself. This fortress mindset is what makes the Sigma so resilient and so terrifying to the system. When the market crashes, when alliances crumble, when the structures that others depend on collapse, the Sigma not only survives, he thrives. He has spent the peacetime preparing for war. He has diversified his skills, built his savings, and cultivated a small, highly vetted network of trusted allies. What others see as a crisis, he sees as an opportunity to acquire assets, to gain ground, and to advance his position while everyone else is panicking. His power stems from a simple, brutal equation that he lives by every single day. Total self-reliance equals total, uncompromising freedom. Building this inner citadel is the ultimate expression of Stoic philosophy. It is the practice of focusing only on what is within your control, your thoughts, your actions, your skills, and building them up to such a degree that you become impervious to the chaos that is outside of your control. This severing of dependence is not about isolating himself from the world, it is about engaging with the world entirely on his own terms. He can collaborate, he can form alliances, and he can participate in society, but he does so from a position of strength, always knowing that he can walk away at any moment without collapsing. He needs nothing from the world, and therefore the world has no power over him. 10. Alchemize Sabotage. Turn poison into propulsion. Most people are broken by adversity. A betrayal leaves them bitter, a failure fills them with shame, and an attack sends them reeling into a defensive crouch. The Sigma male operates with a different kind of mental chemistry. He is a master alchemist of the soul, possessing the rare ability to take the poison of sabotage and transmute it into the fuel of propulsion. He understands that every attack, every obstacle, and every act of betrayal is not just a challenge to be overcome, but a gift of information and opportunity in disguise. He doesn't just endure hardship. He repurposes it, weaponizing the negative energy directed at him to accelerate his own ascent. This process of adversity alchemy is a core part of his operational code. When he is betrayed, his first response is not emotional turmoil, but a cold, hard analysis. The betrayal becomes an invaluable, albeit painful, lesson in loyalty testing and human nature. He dissects the event, learns the tactics of the betrayer, and adds that knowledge to his strategic arsenal. A professional failure is not a dead end. It is transformed into a strategic decoy, a feint that misdirects his competitors while he pivots to pursue a much larger, more significant objective. He allows others to think he has been defeated in one area, while he is quietly securing victory in another. Consider the example of a jealous colleague who attempts to steal credit for his work. A conventional person would react with anger and complaint. The Sigma male sees the bigger picture. The colleague's act of theft is a public admission of their own insecurity and incompetence. The Sigma will let the small injustice slide perhaps, but he archives the event. Later, in a high-stakes negotiation or a critical career moment, he can use that colleague's known character flaw as leverage, subtly exposing their lack of integrity to gain a decisive advantage. He doesn't seek petty revenge, he seeks strategic dominance. Resistance is not something to be broken through, it is something to be absorbed, recycled, and converted into rocket fuel for his own ambitions. This mindset is the epitome of stoic resilience forged into an offensive weapon. It is the embrace of a more fatty, a love of one's fate, not as a passive acceptance, but as an active, strategic choice to find the advantage in every circumstance, no matter how negative it may seem. The traps that others set for him become his classrooms. The attacks he endures become his strength training. He studies the moves of his opponents not to defend against them, but to understand their psychology, to identify their blind spots, and to learn how to exploit those weaknesses in the future. In the Sigma's world, nothing is wasted. Every setback, every insult, every obstacle is raw material to be alchemized into power, wisdom, and ultimately victory. 11. Command the shadows. Impose presence without permission. The world is structured around a system of gatekeepers and hierarchies. You are taught to wait your turn, to ask for permission, to climb the ladder one rung at a time, and to seek validation from those who hold the titles. The Sigma male rejects this entire paradigm as a form of voluntary servitude. He understands that permission is propaganda, a tool used by the established order to maintain control and stifle true innovation. Instead of playing by these rules, he commands the shadows. He builds his influence from the periphery, bypasses the official gatekeepers, and lets the undeniable quality of his results scream far louder than any job title ever could. He doesn't seek a throne. He simply creates an impact so profound that recognition is not requested but forced. This is the principle of shadow sovereignty. It is the act of seizing power through silent, irreversible action. While others are busy networking, polishing their resumes, and queuing up for the approval of a superior, the Sigma is in his lab, in his workshop, in his own mind, building something of such immense value that it cannot be ignored. He will launch the project without asking for a budget, he will set the boundary without waiting for consensus, and he will claim the intellectual and creative space before anyone else even realizes it's contested. He operates on the principle that it is always easier to ask for forgiveness than for permission, except he has no intention of ever asking for forgiveness. His authority, therefore, is not granted by an institution. It is earned through sheer competence and audacity. It is a natural authority that radiates from him because he has consistently demonstrated his ability to see what others miss, to build what others cannot, and to act with a decisiveness that others lack. He doesn't need to be the manager to lead the team. His insights and strategic vision naturally pull others into his orbit. He doesn't need the corner office to shape the company's direction. His silent, impactful work reshapes the entire landscape from the ground up. He makes himself essential not by being loud but by being indispensable. This ultimate law is the culmination of all the others. It is the fluid identity, the weaponized scarcity, the surgical speech, the control of time, and the invisible operation all converging into a single, unstoppable strategy. The The Sigma male doesn't break the system. He makes it irrelevant to his own progress. He builds new systems in the cracks of the old ones. He doesn't fight for power within the existing structure. He becomes his own structure, a sovereign entity operating under his own laws. He imposes his presence without permission, not through aggression, but through the quiet, undeniable, and overwhelming force of his own excellence. For the men of the Sigma male community, let this be burned into your mind. These principles are not about learning to play the game of power better than others. They are about realizing you are not a player at all. You are the architect of the game itself. These laws are not about controlling the pawns on the board. They are about making the kings and queens of the world utterly irrelevant to your path. You do not waste your energy trying to break down the walls of the existing system. You move through the cracks, you build new realities in the shadows, and you let the old world crumble under the weight of its own obsolescence. This is your code. It is the path of quiet mastery, of unseen influence, and of absolute, uncompromising sovereignty. Your journey does not end with this video. It begins now. Take these principles, not as a script to be memorized but as a framework for your own life. Reflect on them. Adapt them. Apply them with the cold, calculating precision that is your birthright. Structure your reality from the shadows, and let your results be the only announcement you ever need to make. If this message resonated with the core of who you are, then your place is here with us. This is more than a channel, it is a digital forge for the minds of men who refuse to be ordinary. So show your allegiance to the path. Like this video to signal your understanding. Comment below with which law you are already mastering in your own life. Share this with the one man you know who operates on this same wavelength, who needs this final validation of his path. And if you have not already, subscribe and more importantly, turn on all notifications. Because what we are building here at the Sigma male community is a movement, and you will not want to miss a single command. Now go and impose your will upon the world, not with noise, but with silent, undeniable impact.